Within about a year of continual training, they actually invited me to become a trainer there. So I took a step back from my day job. I'm normally doing information security, cyber security, so keeping the hackers out, and did anatomy and physiology exams so that I could become a personal trainer, which I did, and up until now I was still doing. However, we have Zoom, so I've just started working with family over Zoom and helping them put a plan together, keeping people moving, protecting joints. One of the key things in lockdown is you will find that knees, hips and lower back stiffen up, and also around the top of the shoulders up here will stiffen up as well. Reason being, hips, knees, lower back, because we're all sitting in really bad positions watching too much Netflix. We're all guilty of that. The reason the upper back hurts is because we've all got our phones and we're like this with it. It's really important. Again, get up, stretch. You've heard this time and again from everyone. It's not just me. Just get up, move around, just keep moving. Make the most of that time to get out in the garden. For those of you that had dogs, make the most of it. Just get out and move. That's really absolutely key. There's no specific exercises. As cancer survivors, we've all got our own challenges as we've come through this. We've all got things that we can and can't do. We all have underlying challenges that it's left us with. So it's a case of finding out what you can do and you moving according to what you can do and just making the most of it. And Chris, being completely unprepared, that's about all I've got really on the subject. So thank you.
Ben, thank you very much. Great tips there for us. Any questions for the wonderful Ben now that anyone wants to throw to him?
I do. It's Paul, Chris. Hello.
Hi, Paul. Go on.
Ben, had you boxed before, or was this something you got into post-treatment?
It's something I've got.
His nose.
Well, he's very, very small on my screen, so no, what injuries he's carrying?
What injuries am I carrying? I'm carrying more injuries than I know about. Stage 4 cancer. I had a hip replacement last year. I've had 2 knee operations. Had DVT as a complication after one of the surgeries. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to get in the ring. You're not going to beat me. Nothing else has. No, I've never boxed before in my life. This is something completely new.
Well done. Inspirational.
It's the ultra white collar boxing, so it's doing it for cancer research. Part of what they do, they take you through, and you get, I think it's about 8 weeks training, and they work with you. They teach you how to box. They teach you how to defend yourself. It's the boxing match itself. You don't find out who you're fighting until about 3 days before you fight, and they partner you up with somebody similar fitness, similar age, similar ability. They then put you in the ring. You got 3 2-minute rounds to get through. And then in my case, I was going to pick up the belt to win. So Paul, yeah, it's been quite a challenge. It's been quite a journey, but I work on the basis that, guys, after everything that all of us have been through, the journeys that every single person on this call has been through, nothing can beat us.
That's brilliant, Ben. Thank you.
Tremendous. So I'm going to go over to the next speaker now. I'm going to invite Michelle to introduce herself, talk about what she does, and how she can hopefully help some of our laryngectomy patients, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of talk back from our laryngectomy patients, so us that have got head and neck can learn a little bit, and then they can learn a little bit from us as we go through the evening. So over to you, Michelle.
That's great. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for inviting me along and to be part of everything that you do. I just think it's amazing. So my name is Michelle Macaulay, and I live here in Northern Ireland. I work for Countrywide Supplies, which is owned by Atos Medical Group. So my job, I'm a head and neck cancer specialist nurse dealing only with tracheostomy and laryngectomy patients. So my role is very varied. I was hired to set up a brand new nursing service that hasn't been in Northern Ireland before. So that's only since last November, trying to get all of the hospitals to form an agreement for me to see patients, because as we know, there's all the pillars in place when you're in hospital, or a lot of the pillars in place. I know it varies from place to place with resources. But as soon as patients actually walk out the door of the hospital and enter their home after having a laryngectomy, that's when the real challenges start for patients, and another new journey for patients and a whole family unit or caregivers. So my role was to provide that, I suppose, community service and visit patients in their own home. And really what I do is I offer practical and emotional support to patients. Obviously with COVID-19, I haven't been able to visit any patients, which was deeply upsetting for them and myself, because there's nobody else in Northern Ireland that's actually been providing that service before. So I very quickly realised that it was an invaluable service to patients. They're given so much information when they're in hospital that when you go home, it's mind-boggling. A lot of the information that they're given has been given over a very short period of time. Their journey sometimes from diagnosis to operation to getting home can just be a matter of weeks. So by the time they go home, they're completely and utterly floored, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So where I come in with that is I do a home visit, I assess the whole household, I answer questions, I offer practical advice, and a lot of the time what I'm dealing with in the beginning is emotional support for patients and clarifying what their clinical guidance was given through the hospital. Picking up where there's challenges with patients. There's a lot to come to terms with somebody going to have maybe a secondary puncture, so they've had their operation, but they're not yet speaking, they haven't had their voice prosthesis inserted, or they've been sent home with an electrolarynx and really aren't coming to grips with it, so they start miming and writing things down. And so it's picking up and sort of dealing with those challenges with the patients and going on that journey with them. So what I found then is I liaise, what I like to consider myself is the bridge. So I'm in the community, seeing the patients and picking up where there's issues or concerns. And then I feed back on each of my visits to the clinicians in the hospital and the healthcare professionals that they're actually associated with. So sometimes it's about being a little bit proactive rather than reactive. So if, let's say, a patient goes home and they've never had a voice prosthesis leak, they don't necessarily remember how to identify that. So they can end up very sick very quickly. So by keeping in regular contact with patients and showing them how to apply their base plates, the brushing and the flushing and the cleaning of the valves and all of those things, it just reiterates all that information that they've been given and possibly been overloaded with in the hospitals. So that's one huge part of my job. The second part is, what I heard back very quickly on seeing patients was, I had the community team, district nursing team come in to visit me, but they really didn't know what they were looking for or looking at. And that's not their fault. That's a lot of the time down to training that they've been given or no training. It's down to their own resources and their staffing levels, etc. And different levels of experience that those teams have in different areas. So my clinical training role, I've done a huge part in the last 9 months of training up district nursing teams across the 5 trusts in Northern Ireland. So I've been trying to make my way around the 5 trusts. So in one of my training sessions, I had nearly 50 come to it. In the evening, I ran it in a hotel in near one of the trusts. And 19 out of the district nursing teams came in their uniforms. It was from 6 until 9 o'clock at night. And it just goes to show that was on their own time, how great the need is for this training. That was in their own time. They were not being paid for it. They'd come straight from work. So it really sort of identified a niche area that needed to be looked at. So I'm only one person here in Northern Ireland, but I feel that if I can train up enough of the district nursing teams to improve their own skills, then we're working together, we're working collaboratively, and it's taken away that fear of managing laryngectomy or tracheostomy patients, because I think there's a huge amount of fear out there. Another role of mine will be training up care homes, nursing homes to manage patients, should they need rehab or want to get home initially, or they're going to be in there for long-term care. It's very difficult to find places that will actually accept patients. So I haven't managed to work on that yet, but it's in the pipeline. So during coronavirus or COVID-19, I realized that we needed to find another way to reach out to patients. So what we did was the marketing team and myself and Countrywide Supplies, we decided to initially start webinars. Now, these started beginning of April, took a couple of weeks to put it together. And how we did that was we reached out to patients using the Zoom platform like today. And I came on for roughly about an hour, and I gave a presentation. So the first presentation that we decided to do because of coronavirus was dealing with emergencies. So I went over all of the government guidance that we got on the 23rd of March. I went over very practical situations like if your voice prosthesis leaks, what do we do? So I went through the thickening of fluids, the placing of a plug, and obviously patients sometimes have never used things like this. So it's a discussion then that they were able to pick up with their own clinicians, and then I was able to give telephone or virtual guidance for these patients. So it was about taking away that fear, because they know that a lot of their clinics, they're not running now. So it was just a really good platform. We were able to reach out to nearly 200 for 3 sessions in April. So we decided then to crank it up a bit for May. So I joined forces with the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service, and the risk manager or station commander, Michael Curran is his name. He actually, the last one that we did was last week. It was his first. So we decided for the next one we would do dealing with sort of more situations in the home, an update of the guidance, and then he took over with his practical tips of managing being at home. And he mentioned things like in the UK, the numbers this year were up 50% on house fires from last year. So obviously we're all at home now, and I mean the feedback that we got from his presentation in particular was just outstanding. So we're running another one again tomorrow. It is open to everybody in the UK. You don't need to be signed up with Countrywide Supplies, but certainly if anybody wants to somehow reach out to me after this, they're more than welcome to join the next one. It is tomorrow, so I'll certainly speak to Chris maybe after this, and we can set something up if they want to, you know, just email me your details, and I can forward a link to from the marketing team. We can get all that done in the morning. So it's at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So those are different ways of reaching out to patients and caregivers at the moment. So has anybody any questions for me?
Not a question, just a comment. I think it's great, Michelle, that Countrywide and Atos are doing the home outreach. I had my laryngectomy 4 years ago, and it is, as you say, completely overwhelming. And in so many patients, it happens so quickly. The diagnosis, and you have to have an operation, and you get overwhelmed with the amount of information in a devastating emotional state are required to comprehend, and it's really difficult. You get told things, you forget them, and you're in a medical fog, anesthesia-induced fog about everything. So I think it's really good.
It's great, thanks, Bill. And you're right. And
I had a home nurse come, but it wasn't a home nurse specifically with any experience in tracheostomy and laryngectomy. And so by a week, I knew more than they did about my situation. So it's excellent.
And it's so true, Bill, because I mean, any of us, the fittest of people, you go to a meeting and we know that statistically we take in 25 to 30% of whatever has been discussed in that meeting. So you may have been given all of that information when you're in hospital, but if you quantify what you've retained, it's not going to be a great deal. You'll remember the biggest things or the most frightening part of your journey to come. And I think as well, when you're in a home environment and people know that there's a nurse coming, they open up a lot better. You know, sometimes you may have the wife or the husband of the laryngectomy patient. They don't want to bog down their partner as such, their lifetime partner. So I sometimes have a lot of discussions with them. So I do believe that it's supporting the whole unit and not just the person that's had the actual operation. So it's trying to build the whole picture. Now, I have had some resistance for the service in Northern Ireland. It hasn't been easy. Anything new takes time. And they have to have trust in, the hospitals have to have trust in what I'm doing. And that takes time also. But we're getting there. In England and Wales, the service has been up and running now, I think, close on 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we've a full team now of 7 nurses. So there's 6 over there covering England and Wales. But we have to have an agreement for the hospital. But I think we've gone from the beginning of last year, which was 31 hospitals had signed up for the service, to we're close to 100 now. So it just goes to show that the need is there for the service and the support that's needed in the community. So that's what we're trying to do. So I know we'll get there. And from every visit that I've done, I get so much value out of it. Even if it's something very, very small that somebody might not have remembered on their last visit, whether it's I identify some oral thrush or, going through the changing tool, which is something we've developed about, cleaning, removing your stoma, removing your base plate, all of those things, leakages, not just voice prosthesis, but base plate leakages. Sometimes you'll go out on one base plate and your stoma shrinks, but you don't realize that needs to be changed. And unless you have a district nursing or a community team that have actually been trained in things like that, they're not going to identify those issues. So it's really just about getting really into the nitty gritty of the care that's needed in the community. So you can probably tell I'm very passionate about what I do. It's just because I feel that this area, it's not just about somebody having their voice box removed. You're dealing with people that are on such a really challenging journey, and to see the outcome, or for me to be there with the patient taking their first words after having their voice prosthesis, it's such an amazing feeling for me, and to see that with them and to prepare them for what their new voice will sound like, because sometimes they don't get as far as having that conversation. So you're breaking down those barriers, you're removing the fear, you're teaching them how to make their voice stronger by little tips and tricks along the way, and really trying to empower patients to manage themselves for the best outcome.
When I spoke my first 4 words after the laryngectomy, it wasn't for 3 months, and I was in. I spoke my first words about 2 days before an appointment with my speech pathologist, and I went in, and she heard me speak, and she immediately started crying, and she called in all the other nurses and said, "Bill's speaking, Bill's speaking." And I thought I sounded terrible, but you have a great voice. I so value the nursing staffs, the speech pathologists, and all the team.
It really is fantastic. And I remember the first patient that took their first words, I'll always remember his line. I had his wife sitting with me, and he said to me, I said, now I'd gone through the abdominal breathing and how to explained everything, and took about an hour to do that. He did his voice prosthesis in situ since his operation, which was the end of May last year. He came out of hospital the first week of July, and I saw him on the 27th of July. I didn't expect to see about voice prosthesis in situ. So when I said to him, I got my little torch, and I said, do you mind if I have a little look in your stoma? And I went, you have a voice prosthesis in situ, a VP? And he was just looking at me, what? And I said, why are you not speaking? And he just went. So his wife said, we're waiting on the speech and language appointment. So I spent the next hour going through what could be done, not knowing what the outcome was going to be like, because as we know, not everybody has the outcome they're prepared for. There may be weaknesses or no voice for some time. So his first line was, I said, prepare your line now. And I thought he was going to say something like, I love my wife. But instead he said, today is a good day. It's like the summer. So I just, and everybody was immediately in tears. His wife grabbed my arm and said, I never thought I'd hear his voice again. And because obviously you don't lose your accent, she wasn't prepared for that either. So it truly was a great day.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. Fantastic. I just want to let everyone know before we go to the next speaker, I think this is incredible that tonight, on a monthly meeting that we set off, we've got Ross from South Africa, we've got Australia in the room, we've got Romania in the room, we've got USA in the room, we've got India in the room, New Zealand, and the UK. That to me is phenomenal, and I think we all need to give each other a round of applause, because that, to me, that just shows you that, you know, we are all one voice and we can come together. I thank you for you coming along, and we'll always have issues because none of us are experts at doing this. So, you know, I never apologise for it going wrong. We've all got to learn as we go along. So it's a little bit emotional when you see that many people coming on from all around the world to meet up and talk. It's a shame we can't get the breakout rooms working tonight, but I can assure you we'll have them working next time so we can have smaller groups. But John, you wanted to have a chat? John?
Is it Joanne who is from Florida?
Yeah. Okay.
I've lost Joanne. Where are you? Now, who's the Florida with the tonsillar cancer?
Not sure who's on. You'll have to. They'll text us, they'll message us, and then I'll.
It's me.
Oh, there you
Jason Mendelson.
Jason, hi. You're in Florida, huh?
In Orlando, yes.
Orlando. Because I was tonsillar cancer as well. And believe me, you get through it. But how many years since you've had it?
2014 was my last treatment.
Yeah,
So
mine was 2012.
Ah, well, good. It's always better.
How's your eating? Can you eat anything you like now or not?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good that way. Charlie horses in my neck, some dry mouth, but in general, very good.
I'm about the same. I still have difficulty eating meat, but if it's small, I can get it down.
Perfect. So we're going to move on to a very, very good friend of mine who, trust me, will wake us all up. He's spoke at a couple of our conferences over the last few years. We met because of cancer, and you know, cancer brings a lot of people together, but he's like a brother to me now, this guy. The only problem is he's a southerner, so we have to forgive him for that. But apart from that, I'm sure he's going to wake us all up, and I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Chris Lewis.
That's a bit of a build-up, that, Chris.
Well, follow that.
You set the bar high there. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you, meet you, virtual you, or whatever you want to say. It's a credit to Chris and his gang to get everyone together here tonight. And it's a wonderful thing that we've got the technology to do this, isn't it, Chris? Because if it happened a few years ago, we wouldn't be able to do it.
We wouldn't, indeed.
So, Corona, if there was a time to come, this is the right time. I'd just like to talk to you a bit about my personal story a little bit and about the charity work that I do. So I'm Chris Lewis, as Chris said. My personal journey started back in 2007 when I was 51, and I got diagnosed with incurable blood cancer, and I was given 6 months to live. So, lots of faces there. Chris, you all right? You got me on the screen there? Oh, you can't hear.
Yeah, we can see you. Carry on.
Oh, you can
Chris.
see. Okay.
Carry on, Chris.
Carry on.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. So that was my first venture into the cancer world. I never knew anything about really that until it came to my doorstep. So that was quite a shock. And I was traveling around the world meeting lots of people with my job. I used to buy and sell ladies' clothes, and it was great fun. So to be told that I only had 6 months to live was really shocking. I had to have lots of aggressive chemotherapy, and then after that, I had a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor, a young lad of 22 in London. My blood was quite common, so they found a match for me in London, which was great. And in 2007 at Christmas, I got the gift of a new life. I went into St. George's in London and received my new stem cells. So I wasn't in very good shape for a long period of time. And it took me probably about 6 or 7 months to get back on my feet. But the job that I had was traveling around the world buying and selling. And I just physically wasn't able to do that after my cancer and its treatment. I was really, unfortunately, a pale shadow of the person that I was. So I didn't really know what to do. Time wasn't on my side, according to the clinicians. I'm a business guy, and I could always start a new business. That's not really a problem for me. But given the fact that I had limited time, my personal venture into the cancer world wasn't, let's say, it wasn't enthralling. The support that I didn't find. I used to watch the TV a lot and see all these wonderful charities and wonderful organisations that were supposedly doing a lot for people affected by cancer, but that wasn't my personal experience. And I found the aftercare and the after support pretty non-existent. It was very disjointed. The charities didn't talk to each other. The government didn't talk to the charities. And it was, everyone was doing everything for their own good, it seemed to me. Nothing really was concerning the patient. So I decided to try and use whatever time I had left for the benefit of others, to use my business experience to try and help others. And it was very difficult because my health was totally unreliable. And as Chris says, I'm a little bit loud. And I made my voice very clear to people that I was unhappy with the facilities. And one person asked me to speak at a conference. They said, "Oh, you're a very confident guy, so come along and speak." And from then I haven't stopped speaking. So that's been brilliant. But with unreliable health, as you'll all know, it's quite difficult to plan and quite difficult to be in a certain place at a certain time. And I found that very frustrating. So friends of mine, before this internet arrived, which most of us were around with that time, where telephone was the way to speak, they said, "Well, we'll set you up a website." And I mean, I knew nothing about websites, a bit like Chris. So they very kindly set me up a website. And I thought, what am I going to say on here? Anyway, I decided that the website wasn't really for me. It was for everybody to share. And I wanted to find out if I was the only one feeling like I was. And it got very busy, the website, which was a pleasant surprise to me. And we won quite a few awards. And now I'm probably one of the busiest cancer websites in the world. But I'm certainly one of the most influential cancer patients, alongside Chris, in the UK. And that's led to a lot of wonderful things happening. So from being just a cancer patient, you know, just of millions of us, unfortunately, I now have a voice through the internet. So for me, it's been an incredible thing. And it's put me into places and it's put me into meetings. Meeting Chris was one of the bonuses, and meeting you guys is certainly another. But I can actually now get my voice out there. So I get to government, I get to all of these sort of people. Whether it makes any difference, that's another matter. But I'm actually at the table now, putting the patient's point of view. And 3 years ago, I was invited by my partner in the charity. So we jointly run Your SimPal, which is a charity that gives mobile communication to people affected by cancer. Unfortunately, it's purely in the UK at the moment, but we're the only people in the world that do that. I don't think there's anyone in any other country that does it. And I was approached by my partner in the scheme, Blair, who runs a mobile phone business. And she said to me, "Chris, there are too many people in the world affected by cancer, and the poverty involved with that, people losing their jobs and incomes. It's very, very tough. And we're now in the times when we need to communicate in a mobile way." So I knew she was right. She had the phone scheme and I had the cancer contacts. So it made sense. We got together and it was a new thing. It was a simple thing. We thought it was just, it's such a simple idea. Why didn't anybody think of it before? But but they haven't done it, and I know why they haven't done it, because it's quite difficult to do. But we now give free phones and free airtime and data for people affected by cancer. They apply to us through the website, and we look at their individual cases, and then if we agree to that, then we'll supply them for 6 months with no bills at all, and then we review the case after 6 months. Sometimes people get worse, sometimes people get better. You know, that's the thing with cancer. But that's what we do, and we're the only people in the world that are doing it. And we currently support now about 500 families across the UK. And actually, since COVID has come, you know, we narrowed the field down because it's quite an expensive work trying to supply handsets and stuff to people. But now with COVID coming, I've got lots of inquiries from lots of other areas, lots of other communities, older communities, more isolated communities that also want to do this work. People have been donating stuff during COVID, not to us, but to hospitals and things. And that's quite difficult actually for hospitals to deal with random donations of tablets and phones, whereas we're actually very organised. We have a setup with 3 and we use O2, and our charity's now been going for 3.5 years. So we started something we believed in, and the irony, of course, now with COVID coming along is that, in fact, the desire for what we offer now is almost off the scale. So we're now very busy with COVID. So that's my story. Chris, you muted?
Yeah, but you undersell it. So
I didn't want to bore everyone, to be honest.
To be fair, guys, you know, the phone alone is massive. And I wish every country in the world had a Chris in their country to be able to do the phones, because it makes such a big difference. And I know that we have a charity shop here, and we put pledges out just when people are upgrading phones. Instead of upgrading them, give them to us and we send them on to Chris. Makes a big difference. So what I'd say to you all is look in your old garages, your drawers, everywhere, and if you've got an old phone, send it to Chris, and it'll end up in the hands of a patient that needs to communicate. And you know, you can all do that. Chris never promises the latest iPhone 24.
We don't work with Apple, Chris. We don't work with Apple. We don't work with them. They're not interested in giving things to people. They only want to make a profit, right? They're not interested in it.
Well, don't get Chris onto the big corporates, otherwise we'll be here all night. But he honestly does a great job, guys, and he is worth watching on Twitter and following on Twitter and his website. And please, all of you, just get hold of him if you need any help with phone system or communication. He's a great guy, and he's a funny guy as well. So, like I said, the only issue is he's a Scouser. So,
Scouser, hello, hello.
so yeah, and thanks for joining us tonight, Chris, because I know you're a busy guy as well.
Oh no, Chris, it's a pleasure. Would anyone ever? There's so much in it. That's why I tried to narrow it down a little bit. But does anyone have a question maybe about my own personal stuff, or does that come later? Or
have anyone got any questions that they want to throw at Chris? Please throw them at him.
What's your website?
chrisscancercommunity.com.
Thank you.
Just Google Chris Lewis and cancer, and thankfully it comes up as #1.
So, he pays a lot of money for that.
No, I do not.
I was just going to tell you, this is Jason Mendelson up here waving.
Hi, Jason.
Hey there. My first time at your meeting here, but I'm on the executive board of the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance and have a website, supermanhpv.com. And I would be interested in learning more about what you're doing to see if I could potentially include it within what we're doing at the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance, where we provide gift gas cards to patients so they can get to treatment. So it might be an interest. I've never heard about it, heard about what you're doing, and I've been on the board for years. And so I would, that's something we might be able to include within our organization. And so I'd like to know more. It's very kind.
Jason, that would be fantastic for me. The US and Arthur, I know Arthur very well, who's on here somewhere. For me, I know damn well we would tear the place up in the US because you know it's a massive market there, and I believe that we would get the donations that we would need for that because you know. Your audience is just perfect for us. When you say that you haven't heard of us, it actually frightens me. We don't, not in that way. No, not in that way at all. Actually,
I don't mean that insulting.
No,
I don't mean it insulting.
No, it's not taken that way. But the problem I have is that I don't pay for advertising because we're a very small charity and we work organically. So we started, there's just me and my partner, we started just the two of us. And we scraped a bit of cash together. We're entrepreneurs, and we put it to a couple of our friends, and off it went. Now we don't advertise, and all we do is work by word of mouth or through the website, and we're absolutely full. And the problem is, when we advertise, what we want is people to donate. But when we ask for donations, we get more inquiries for service. So
we ran out of money for our gas card program as well from patients. Here. So again, when I say I haven't heard of you, I was diagnosed with stage 4 HPV tonsil cancer in 2014, and I had never heard of it. And so my focus primarily is HPV related oropharyngeal cancer, so tongue, throat, tonsil. And so I do a lot in that area, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
No, and I don't want to either. So
I would love to hear more about it because I think we could help people everywhere. I take my cell phone for granted, and so but I do this outside of my full-time job that I work 50 to 70 hours a week. So this is a nights, weekends when I have a break thing. So but let's talk later so I don't take over.
You only work part-time.
I'm sorry?
You only work part-time at 70 hours.
Ask my wife and 3 kids that. Yeah, but they know we're working to save the world, so we're good.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Chris.
Thank you.
This makes you all about connecting. It's fantastic. So, is Liz still on from Mouth Cancer Foundation? I think she's somewhere.
I'm still here.
Liz, do you just want to sort of have 5 minutes talking about the Mouth Cancer Foundation? Because at the end of the day, we do collaborate and work together an awful lot. And it'd be nice where you've come on tonight just to sort of give 5 minutes to the people abroad to tell them what the Mouth Cancer Foundation does.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. The Mouth Cancer Foundation is a UK-based charity. Initially, it was set up 15 years ago by Dr. Vinod Joshi, who was he was a restorative dentist at Pinderfields Hospital in Wakefield in the UK. He found that when he had patients, they all had the medical help, but they didn't have patients who had been through the journey that a lot of you guys have been through. And so he founded the charity, and it was initially a forum, and from a very, very small little seed, a slightly bigger tree is now growing. We focus on mouth and head and neck cancer and touch a little bit on laryngectomy. Mainly a web-based charity offering support to patients, carers and survivors, and then trying to get the dental profession to raise awareness of the importance of screening of cancer and early detection, working with medical professionals to do the same thing, really. So that's us in a nutshell. And then over the last 2 or 3 years, Chris and I have worked quite closely on a few projects. There's a slight area where we can really support each other, and this is with the patient support. Chris does it really well with his 24/7 helpline. We do it more Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, on the helpline side of things. And then Chris takes over out of hours as well. So yeah, that's us.
Thank you, Liz. Perfect. And I think, to be fair, I think, like Chris said, all charities, especially the smaller charities, need to collaborate and work together. And if we can collaborate and work together, we can reach more patients that are struggling, and we could also make a massive big difference. So, you know, instead of us all doing our own little bit, that's why me and Chris work close together. That's why we work with Mouth Cancer Foundation, Oral Cancer Foundation. You know, we've got to work together. to support patients and carers. And it's proved it tonight, you know, by the time it goes out there, you know, close on 100 people coming in and out of this meeting from around the world. It wouldn't happen if we didn't collaborate. So thanks, Liz, for coming tonight. I've got to thank publicly, while I'm talking to the world, two ladies that are on tonight. And I've just noticed that Joe and Julie are still here, aren't you, from Blackpool? Joe was my CNS, and she's my angel. Without her, I wouldn't be here today. She's fantastic. And Julie, her assistant, has been wonderful all the way through. The team at Blackpool, I absolutely love to death. So those two girls really did save my life. So I wouldn't be here tonight without them and Mr. Nigam. So publicly to the world, it's my first chance to thank them. So, and tonight, Friday the 13th, at 11/13th of May, I was diagnosed. So 9 years today, I was diagnosed. So thank you, Julie, and thank you, Joe, for getting me to where I am today. You're absolute stars.
Where's that 9 years gone?
I know.
My goodness. Hey?
And I look younger every day, I know, so you don't have to think that. So I'm going to go to another speaker. Josh, again, has become a very good friend. And a very good colleague, and supports us, and we try and support her. She's going to talk a little bit about oral cleaning orally. So I'll pass over to her, and she's going to take you through the next 15 minutes. So over to you. Where are you, Josh?
You're on mute, Josh.
There we go. Hi! The wonders of Zoom. I'm going to take my hat off because I'm a bit hot now. But good evening, everybody. How are you all? Thank you very much to Chris for giving me the time. Hi, other Chris. Hi, Liz. So, yes, I'm a clinical ambassador for the Mouth Cancer Foundation, but I do a lot with lots of charities, lots of medical groups, lots of dental groups, because for me, it's not just about early detection, diagnosis. For me, it's through the treatment, but then going outwards and back on home. So a bit like Michelle, it's all about home care and keeping everybody going. It's so important, and everybody's surviving at many years. And so oral health for me, I'm a tooth geek, so I can't help get a bit excited about teeth. Teeth are really important. We need teeth, and we need everything to be clean. It's all about keeping the mouth as clean as possible and keeping it all working. So I always have lots of gear at home. So this is where I started doing lots of webinars, showing lots of different kinds of toothbrushes. It doesn't stop there. And water flossers, if you can't manage toothbrushes. And then manual toothbrushes. So there's lots. There's so many things out there. So when you're on the ward, you'll have been given many mouthwashes and things because your mouth would have been sore through treatment, and hopefully that will have settled. But a long-term problem can often be dry mouth, which you mentioned, Jason, and that's number one problem. When you have a dry mouth and you lose your saliva, you lose your ability to talk, to swallow. Swallow is really important, to chew up your food, eat your food. It's very important, saliva. So there's different products to try. There's gels, mouthwashes, sprays, gums, mints, anything to try and keep any saliva going, and the saliva substitutes and saliva stimulants. So there are many options. They're all on my website. I add to the website all the time. A lot of them are available on prescription, available over the counter. It all depends on cost and how much you want to spend. Lots of the companies do give out little samples, and samples are really good because often they're little travel sizes anyway, and it gives you a little taste of something. So my patients know they're my willing guinea pigs. I throw everything at them and they give me really honest feedback. So they tell me whether they like stuff or they don't like stuff. I've been in dentistry for over 30 years. This area has become a passion for about the last 5 years. And I work in Max Fax now with the head and neck cancer patients in Gloucester and Cheltenham Hospital. So my day is very varied. I work in general practice as well. So a lot of the patients I see in general practice, they've been survivors for many years, but all of them generally have dry mouth. So I try and keep their mouths clean, show them how to use whatever they use, whether it's electric toothbrush or manual toothbrush. It's about keeping the bacteria under control, and to be aware of your mouth. Keep checking your mouth, see if there's anything that doesn't feel quite right, and put your hand up and come and let us have a look-see. I'm quite happy to refer. I like to recommend different products, different toothpaste. Toothpaste are really important. Different toothpaste have different things, enzymes, different levels of fluoride. It's all really important, but it helps to keep your mouth fresh, healthy, and keeps your overall health. It's the mouth, it's the window to your body, I always say. So, yeah, how was that? That was probably about 5 minutes, wasn't it? I can go on for longer. There's little toothbrush picks, rubbery ones, wire ones. There's all sorts, different ways of using them before or after brushing. What can we do? There's loads of things. I write articles. I help the medical profession. I get them really tooth geeky. It's quite exciting. Nobody's left a room yet. They're always excited to ask me questions at the end. So it's good to inspire other people. So
I've never known a woman to get so excited about a toothbrush.
Good.
You.
This woman, I mean, you talk to our conferences. My God, I've never seen someone bring so many toothbrushes. I didn't know there were so many toothbrushes. What you don't know about toothbrush isn't worth knowing unless she knows it. But she's also very passionate about the mouth and the hygiene. I think it's great that we've got someone like that. And she's always got a great smile herself. So, yeah, it's good. So, again, if you've got questions for her, stick them in the chat and we'll come back to her. It would be fantastic.
Please.
Thank you for that, Josh. And I'm sure there'll be questions at the end when we do the Ask the Expert. I am going to go over to a man now that became a very good friend of mine when I visited the States. And I do want him to say a few things because when he joined us tonight, he still had his mask stuff on for protection. So Arthur, I didn't know whether you wanted to say 5 minutes about what's going on in America. Don't mention obviously the president because over here we've heard enough of him with his bleach. So maybe you can put some reality around the issues as a top surgeon in your hospital you're going through at the moment with coronavirus.
Yeah, and actually, even before that, I just wanted to comment on a few of the speakers. You guys have all been great. As we know, Chris Lewis is my favorite Crystal Palace fan. Probably the only Crystal Palace person I know, but there you go. In terms of what Ben said about, physical therapy, not even physical therapy, but staying active, things along those lines. That is so important. It needs to happen early on. So, one of the things we frequently see with neck dissections, just like Chris had, is that you can get some significant shoulder weakness. And if you don't start moving quickly and working with a physical therapist or a physio, that shoulder can get frozen. It can really lock up, and the shoulder will actually droop and stretch the nerves in the neck and cause chronic pain. So that's important. The other thing with exercising is that it gets rid of a lot of the edema, the swelling that occurs, especially with radiation. And that lymphedema, as it's called, if it's not massaged out, will actually fibrose. It'll get scarred, and that will prevent swallowing from working correctly. And these are lifelong problems. This is what makes head and neck so different. It's sort of, unfortunate. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving, like they used to say with one of the old commercials. Because what ends up happening is that as these areas stiffen up, even 10 years out, I have patients who did great 5 years out from surgery, and this is going way back when people got really heavy doses of radiation. So they would be radiated, and 10 years out, they had a feeding tube because their throat had just fibrosed so badly. So thank God we don't see a lot of that anymore. So that kind of mobility is really important. In terms of what Josh said, one of the really key things that we see with dryness, and this is why her work is so important, is that as your mouth dries out, your teeth need saliva to stay healthy. And if your teeth end up getting infected, especially your lower teeth, it's not a simple process, because if you've had radiation, which already damages the teeth, and those teeth need to be pulled, you end up needing hyperbaric oxygen to really allow the teeth to be pulled without causing a jar infection. And we've had patients years ago, before we had these type of things in the dental care that Joss does, where they would maintain their jaw after their cancer treatment, but then years later they'd have a tooth pulled and the jaw would get what's called osteoradionecrosis, dead bone. They'd end up going with the jaw replacement, not for the cancer, but for that. So that's kind of an update there. In terms of COVID, we're pretty shut down in terms of doing elective things. And Chris and I had talked before We're continuing with our cancer treatments. So, you know, I've done a bunch of cancer surgeries during this pandemic with all the garb on and everything. We continue with our radiation and our chemo. So we're not changing anything there. The office visits have been decreased. I'm actually in my office now and I'm beginning to see some patients. Tomorrow's our first multidisciplinary head and neck clinic in 2 months. And the way we're doing it is I'm going to be in the room because I'm very comfortable. I've been doing tracheotomies on COVID patients and been right in the, you know, right in the mix. I did one yesterday. I actually did another one this morning. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm going to be in the room with the patient and I have an iPad set up and everyone else is going to be out of the room talking to the patient through Zoom. So Kylie, our head and neck navigator, our speech and swallowing therapist, our radiation therapist, a medical oncologist, they can all stay out of the room so that we limit people's exposure, but we can still give the care we need to do. In fact, I'm seeing a new patient tomorrow that I'll probably end up setting up for a robotic tonsillectomy. So we continue to move. Obviously, I've asked my patients to make sure they wear their mask, which right now is mandatory in Massachusetts, the state I'm in. But this is a really bad disease. Our ICUs are full. We have 2 ICUs normally with 23 beds in a hospital of about 400 patients. We've expanded 3 other areas to be ICUs. So we have about 50 ICU beds right now. We have about 10 left. So a lot of really sick patients. But we're getting through it. We're doing good. We've got a great team, as Chris knows.
And you know what? This guy's worth following on Facebook. If nothing else, for his socks.
That's right.
His socks are legendary. Forget his surgical skills. His socks are legendary. So, but not only that, many times I wake up on a Saturday or a Sunday, and he's in doing operations on patients with his team on a Saturday and a Sunday. He's just an incredible guy. And if you can ever get to one of our conferences to see him live, trust me, apart from him being a bit of a West Ham fan, he is a United fan, so you know we forgive him for that. But not only that, he is our overseas patron for the charity as well, and he's an incredible guy. He really is. So follow him on Facebook.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you'll get a laugh a day. I promise you.
Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks so much.
Put on Arthur.
Thank you, everyone.
So Jim, are you about still? Is Jim there? He was. I saw him before. I'm not sure where he's just disappeared.
He's got his.
Yeah, I just had to unmute myself.
Okay. Jim, do you want to just have 5 minutes on, from your point of view, from laryngectomies over in the States and try and talk for some of the people you've invited along and have 5 minutes fame while you're there?
Sure, be happy to.
Away you go.
All right. It's good to see some of my friends from the Netherlands and from Romania and India. And I think what you're doing is a terrific thing. I would like to see it morph into something over here in the USA. I was really impressed with Brighton, and I would like to see that prosper and thrive, and looking forward to going to the next one. I deal mainly with laryngectomy patients and artificial larynx. I'm considered, I'm a self-proclaimed expert on the artificial larynx. My father was a laryngectomy, and he used to bring artificial larynx home when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and what better thing for a 10-year-old to have this vibrator that can scare people and talk to people, and I'd bring it to school and show it off, and I was just the hero of the class when I brought that in. So that, needless to say, that influenced my career decisions. And I've been doing it now for 30 years, and I'd like to share my experiences with the UK if you have artificial larynx use. And one thing I don't hear about a lot of anywhere in the world anymore is esophageal speech, which is a natural. I mean, you can learn how to do it and not use any kind of instruments at all. I'd like to see that continue, but prosthesis and other devices are kind of making esophageal speech a thing of the past, and I would love to see it resurge as a way to talk, a primary way to talk, because it's natural. It doesn't cost anything, and you don't have to buy expensive devices to communicate. So I'd like to see that, and the technology, it's been there for years. It's just, it takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, but I think it's well worth preserving. And if you have patients over there, with artificial larynx that are giving them problems, I'll be happy to video conference and see if we can troubleshoot it over the internet. And a lot of these repairs that I do and I see are very, very simple things. I mean, they're they send them to me, I tweak it and I send it back because they didn't know how to tweak it, or they didn't know that it could be fixed. They figured it breaks. Oh well, it can't be fixed. I'm out of luck. Well, they can be fixed easily. It's not rocket science. It's a vibrator.
Great. So, does anybody in the UK have a comment on that from the UK? Either Michelle or any of the laryngectomy patients from the UK or America have a comment on it?
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned esophageal speech. I know Elizabeth teaches it, and it seems like it's very difficult to learn. Is there anyone else that, I know your dad has the book and you've sent me the links, but to help instruct with esophageal speech?
Yes, there's other hospitals, major hospitals like MD Anderson in Houston. They're very proficient with teaching esophageal speech. Elizabeth is in Arizona, and she charges a fee to do it. But there are some hospitals that still promote esophageal speech, especially for the young laryngectomies. Older laryngectomies, it might be a little more difficult because the tissues have gotten, old, and they don't vibrate like they used to. So it's I have a lot of opinions, so I don't want to go there. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad if I do. But I'll be happy to talk to anyone privately or help them publicly. It doesn't matter. My email address is jklvoice@aol.com. That shows how old I am. And I'll be glad to help out anyone that I can with advice or troubleshooting.
Jim, put your email in chat and then people can pick it up from there.
Okay, we'll do.
Chris, can I make a comment on the esophageal speech and electrolarynx?
You just want to introduce yourself, Joe? I know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm one of the head and neck clinical nurse specialists.
My angel.
And I think with the COVID crisis, I think we are going to go full circle with voice rehabilitation. The gold standard is to do the puncture at the time of surgery, and it'd be interesting, Arthur and American colleagues, what your kind of standard practice is now during COVID and the weeks ahead. I think ENT UK and our surgeons as well, surgery we're having to place on a priority level, and if there's going to be airway embarrassment pretty quickly, those patients are a priority one. So surgery does need to go ahead for laryngectomy, but I do think that patients are going to be coming back from surgery without a primary puncture, i.e. there's no channel to place a voice valve. And I can see pros and cons from that, but it'll be interesting over the coming months how that's going to affect patients mentally as well as physically. I think it's kind of taking their choice away. If they do want a valve initially, it may be something that the surgeons are having those conversations in the early days, that isn't an option, and it may be that we see more electrolarynx and more esophageal speech over the coming months.
Yeah. Arthur, are you still there, or have you gone to see a patient? I think Arthur's gone for a patient. Jim, do you want to come back on that?
No, not really. I'll be, I'd like to see laryngectomies participate more in this, and you got a good crop of them today. Steve is there, and Marianne from the Netherlands. She's an esophageal speaker, and she can teach it also. So I'd like to see, I just don't want to see it go away as a thing of the past.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's a fabulous way of communicating. And apparently it is an easier technique to learn as a neck breather. So patients that have that altered anatomy apparently do have the ability to learn that esophageal speech better than somebody that has the larynx.
I have some some videos too that are on YouTube and on my website on how to teach esophageal speech via laryngectomy. It was done at Massachusetts in Massachusetts in 1953.
Wow.
And it's an excellent recording. I'll post my website, and you can
That'd
go
be great.
see it.
Yeah.
And also, my father did an audio tape. My father was an esophageal speaker. He was also the first laryngectomized speech pathologist to earn his C's over here in the States, his certification. So he wrote the book in 1968, and we're still making that available as a way. It's like a primer for esophageal speech.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put my information up, and then any questions, or I'll be able to steer anyone to a lot more information.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Joanne, as far as primary versus secondary punctures, I looked into that a lot. It really, in the U.S., it varies from institution to institution.
Yeah.
My surgery was done by a Johns Hopkins hospital, and their protocol is secondary punctures. But I actually, ATOS has some good literature on it. And of all the studies, the small health benefits of allowing for the laryngectomy, allowing them to heal and doing a puncture later, the health benefits are so minute. However, the mental health effects of not being able to speak actually outweigh any possible health benefits. And I can speak to that. I went almost 9 months without being able to speak. Thankfully, with help of Jim, I was able to voice with an electrolarynx. But the mental health side was devastating. And it wasn't until I actually had to switch doctors to have the puncture done, even at 9 months. So, but it varies from institution to institution here.
Sure. I think that's a pretty similar story here in the UK. I think surgeons do have that final say, and we're fortunate that our main head and neck surgeon is keen for primary puncture. But I think due to COVID, things do have to be considered carefully, and patients, I'm sure it's the same across the world, speech therapists and nurses have had to look at their valve service. I mean, we're fortunate that we've got Julie as our coordinator that's been instrumental in really helping us being able to still provide a 5-day service for our valve patients. But yeah, I think it is tricky times for everyone, and we are starting to look at some patients having an occluded valve. So that would mean on a temporary basis, although they've got a puncture and a valve, if they're a frequent leaker, it just means that they may have to have an occluded valve temporarily to save them having to keep coming back into hospital. So they would have electrolarynx as a temporary measure.
Joe,
Just to say,
sorry, Michelle. Could I ask you a question, Joe, on another subject?
Yeah.
I saw some article from speech and language therapists and the surgeons, I think it was last week, to say that in the UK, all scoping's got to stop at the point of diagnosis or before.
No, that's definitely not true. No. Nasendoscopy is a crucial part of a 2-week fast track referral. Most patients do require that physical examination and a scope. What we have to do is triage patients efficiently so that they are deemed as needing to come in for a physical appointment, and ENT UK have done a fabulous triage process where the consultant receiving the referral can do a telephone triage, and at the end of those questions the patients will come out on a traffic light system, red, amber, green, and if they are red and high risk, then absolutely they come in for a nasendoscopy. What it has meant is we've had to change the layout of clinics and the service that we can offer, as the consultant and the nurse in that room needs to be in full PPE equipment, and then that room can't be used for an hour. So it has quite big implications, but it is still going ahead, absolutely.
Because in London, I believe I got told they've stopped it now because they couldn't clean the room in time for the next patient coming through.
I can only speak for Blackpool, but we are governed by our esteemed colleagues at ENT UK, and we've been really fortunate. One of our consultants has really stepped up and kind of looked at guidance and documents that are released daily, so we're all up to date.
I was just worried because that would have an impact on the 2-week plan.
Of course, yeah.
Because otherwise, the only way you're going to find the cancer is through a scan. And the trouble is, you don't do scans till a little bit later. So, but that's good news that Blackpool is doing it. So,
hey, Chris,
that positive news out. So, there's another lady in the room from South Africa. I've not seen her for a long time, so I want to say hi to Ross. Ross came to our very first conference in Liverpool, and trust me, if anybody was there that night listening to Ross talk, you'll know who I'm talking about. She's such a posh young lady. Then she talked, and she had the audience in stitches. So Ross, it's lovely to see you again. Looking so well, and a lot younger than the last time I saw you. So thank you for coming tonight, and hopefully we'll continue to talk. But you know, coming on all the way from South Africa is fantastic. So, how's the weather out there?
Well, we are entering winter, so it is getting colder, but still didn't find a very draconian lockdown. No cigarettes, no booze, walking for 3 hours a day. I hate to think of how it's impacting on patients.
Right.
I think that's a real problem. And as the pandemic takes off in our overcrowded township areas, it is going to create havoc. But at the moment, we all live from day to day. I have a lot of work to keep me going. As you know, I very seldom see other patients. I never do, because I live so far away from the major centres. So I do, as head and neck cancer patients, feel very isolated. So thanks, Chris. This sort of interaction really helps.
Fantastic.
And so nice to see all of you guys. Awesome.
Perfect. And Ross, I won't tell the whole story, but you're not upset anybody else in a shopping queue. You remember your talk when you told the gentleman what to do because he was looking at you? But we'll save that for another night.
Yeah. But you know, one last thing. For me, I love having to wear a mask because it covers up that area. So yeah, best case scenario.
There's always a good thing that comes out of every crisis.
Yeah, you're right.
So we're going on 8:15 now, and I just want to make sure I've got everybody in that I wanted to have a chat. So,
hey Chris,
go.
Could I introduce Marianne to speak for a minute or two using her beautiful esophageal speech?
Perfect. Carry on.
Marianne. Yeah. Let's hear from you.
Do I really have to? I'm Marianne. I'm from the Netherlands. I speak esophageal speech for more than 30 years. This October it will be 31 years. after my laryngectomy, and I'm doing fine since. And I'm happy I found you guys. I finally got to sign in. So, it's good to see you all.
Very good.
Marianne's a terrific resource for the for Europe and the UK. So I'd like to see her, more often. She's a wonderful person.
Thank you.
Well, we've been corresponding for some time, so it's nice to actually put a face to a name now, which is brilliant. So I just want to go down my list, and I know Emma's not here, is she, Emma Riley? I don't think.
No, Emma's not here.
No, that's fine. And we've got Lee Dolby there, which is Lee. Are you there? Leah?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, there you go.
Lee.
You've got 5 minutes to tell them all about you.
Wow, okay. Well, first of all, just thank you that I can be here. I was almost in tears when I heard that we're a group from all over the world. Aren't we fortunate and blessed to be able to communicate in this way? I met Chris and Chris a few years back when I started to work for myself independently as a physiotherapist. I've been physio for 35 years, and my passion and joy and delight and interest is working with people who have scarring from surgery and radiotherapy and sometimes accidents. So yeah, that's just my real interest. It feels like exactly what I should be doing. So it's hard not to be doing it at all at the moment. I see quite a lot of people who've had head and neck surgery, mostly for cancer, although also for horrible road traffic accidents sometimes and burns. And the very gentle techniques that I use make a massive difference for freeing up particularly myofascial tissue, although it's really easy, isn't it, to get blinkered and think, oh, it's all nerves or all muscles, or, we're completely integrated beings, aren't we? Our mind, body, spirit, and all the tissues in the body. It's not like black lines around each tissue like you see in an anatomy book. So that the fascia is a special connective tissue under the skin. It embraces the muscles, holds things together so they work efficiently. It's amongst the muscles, around all the nerves, blood vessels, around the organs. So when we move, everything should slide smoothly. So most of the people I would see who've had head and neck surgery or radiotherapy, I'll be doing very light work on the face, the scalp, sometimes inside the mouth as well. Really gentle work can make a very profound difference for people. If I can, it's great to see people before their treatment starts, although of course that's unusual. And I will see people throughout their treatment and recovery and through palliative care, depending on what people would need. So yes, please, if you've ever got any queries about scarring or how physio can help. And of course, there's all the stuff about exercising and pacing and relaxation and breathing. But 5 minutes, that's the best I can do for a 35-year career. But just bless you, all of you, for your kindness, people who've supported me with my work and answer questions and teach me things about what it's like. I mean, it's such a privilege and resource to be amongst everyone tonight, so thank you. And massive cuddles to all of you who I love dearly, and polite professional waves to the people who I hope will be friends. Thank you.
Wonderful. So you know what I really get from this is that we have health professionals on here from the US, the UK, and you've got people like Arthur that is right at the top of his tree. You've got Joe, Julie, you've got Lee, you've got Josh, you've got them all. But what they all have in common is the passion to make a difference for patients and us as survivors. To me, that is what it's all about. And, I've met some wonderful people on this journey, and they're just a selection of them. So I thank them all for coming on tonight. One of the things I want to talk to the head and neck patients is at the moment, there's a lot of issues getting products for dry mouth, for mucositis, for blisters, for all sorts of stuff. But people like Bruce and people like Paul that's on here for radiotherapy creams and CC Med and all those, what they do is, because they can't get me into the hospital, if you look over my shoulder, I've got a whole cabinet full of products. So they send me the products in bulk, and then I send them out to patients. And I must be sending 10 parcels out a day to patients. So if you can't get hold of any products for dry mouth, mucositis, or whatever, even down to I had a patient that couldn't get food because he'd just come off his peg. So I spoke to Ames Medical, and they sent me a whole month's supply of food for him. So again, it's all free. All you've got to do is send me an email with what you need and what you want and what you're looking for, and they will be sent to you. While I'm on, Maureen, last time we spoke on your meeting, you were asking about Oraleaf, and I don't know whether Bruce is still online or not, but Oraleaf will be coming to a town near you very shortly. And I passed the details on to them, and I think they'll be contacting you direct to get your load of products from New Zealand. So that'll be happening. And again, with the States, if you need products, come to me. And, you know, while Michelle's on, we had a gentleman that could not communicate with his family, and Atos and Countrywide got him a machine. I don't know what was it, Michelle? Can you remember? But she's coming. Do you know?
Sorry, there's been so many.
Right. It was an electric.
The electrolarynx, the solar tone. Yeah.
So I put the plea in to Atos, the CEO, and within, I would say, 2 days, the nurse delivered it, trained the patient, and now the patient is talking with his family. And there was not a penny parted hands. You know, these companies out there are there for us. And what we've got to do is use them. And if you have to use me as that middle person, please, wherever you are in the world, let me know. And I will get your products to you. What I supply to a lot of our laryngectomy patients are boogie boards. These little things. I don't know whether you can see them. These little things. You write on it. So you write the little words. You won't be able to see it. You push a button and it disappears. They normally cost us £25 each. So as a charity, I found the company in America, and they're sending us 100 for free.
Sure.
So, you know, they're coming. Unfortunately, with what it is at the moment, there's not many flights coming from America to here with goods. So one day we're going to get 100 of them. So I have no issues talking to companies and embarrassing them to give me products. No issues whatsoever. So if you need products, whether you're in a hospital, whether you're a patient, a survivor, or you know your hospital is desperate, come to me and they will get delivered, I can promise you. Because if they don't, with the network I have, I can soon put a tweet out that they're not supporting us. And people remember that. So please, if you need it, come to me. So we've got about 25 minutes left. So the floor is over to you guys. George, it's great to see you from Romania. I love the haircut. The haircut's fantastic.
Hello, good.
It's lovely to see you. So it's great to see you from India. I'm gonna send you a light bulb over for the next meeting, so it's a little bit brighter in your room. But I know it's almost midnight. So it's over to you guys. And anybody want to have a chat? Paul, was there not a question that come in for you from last month?
There was. Is the patient in question on the call? I don't know.
I don't know. But if you want to answer the question, tell the question and then answer it.
All right, hang on a minute. I need to dig it out of my emails first. Again, you put a lot of people. You put a lot of people on the spot here tonight.
Hey, you know me. Listen, I'll tell a story about you if you're not quick enough.
Not again. No one needs to hear this again. Right, okay, hold on a minute. It was. I can't dig out the exact thing. It was to do with skincare around radiotherapy. I'm interested to know: is anyone on the call currently undergoing treatment? I don't just want to kind of assume that everybody has finished. Is anyone undergoing treatment? I'll take that as a no for the time being then, given it's quite quiet. If anyone is still undergoing any problems with their skin, So a lot of what we're involved in is treating patients as they're undergoing their radiotherapy. So it's trying to prevent them from developing a skin reaction when they undergo their radiotherapy. I've actually been involved in the chat here while this has been going on this evening about potential other things that our products are being looked at for. That's, for the time being, that's all off-label stuff. But there are consultants out there who are quite keen. There was one consultant who's quite keen to have a look at using something for the inside of the mouth to try and help with dry mouth and with the burns that you get inside the mouth when undergoing radiotherapy. So hopefully maybe there's something we can do with that. But if anyone is still undergoing any problems with skin, having been through radiotherapy, please just put something on the chat here and I'll get in touch with you. Richard, I've just seen your message. That's perfect. Richard, I'll follow up on this straight away on the chat. Let me just check. Richard, I'll follow up with you on the chat straight away. So, anyone else who's got any questions around this stuff, thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul. Well, Paul is a bit like Josh. You know, Josh likes the toothbrushes. Paul likes skin reaction with radiotherapy. And if he knows more about skin reactions than I would say some of the radio-oncologist does. So, and he's a great independent guy.
You mean I'm a weirdo?
You said it, I only thought it. I wouldn't dare say anything like that to you.
Yeah, as if.
And again, with dry mouth, I've just noticed Bruce is there. He's got his phone the wrong way, so we can only see half of him, but, you know, it's an age thing. So Bruce is there. If there's anything to do with dry mouth, again, he's the guy to listen to and talk to. So again, Bruce, if you can put your details on the chat, and you as well, Paul, then anybody that want to know about those two guys are the ones there to obviously contact. Wherever you are in the world, because they'll still help you. Paul has sent products out to the States for me. He's sent it all out around the world. And same with Bruce. If the patient needs it, those companies make sure the patient get it and worry about the consequences afterwards about money. Money is not important to them at the point the patient needs it. So please try and use them wherever possible. And I'm just looking around the room. So
can I just add something there, Chris? Just to let you know, obviously I'm seen as a commercial nurse, which doesn't sit very well with me because everything a nurse does is for her patients. So just to give you an example, obviously we've been in lockdown, and I got a phone call from the office last Friday week at 4:20 in the evening to say, oh, the wife of an elderly couple, so the wife of the elderly gentleman that had his laryngectomy forgot to put an order in for him, and he was on his last base plate that he was wearing for 24 hours. Was there anything that I could do? Because obviously trying to get everything over on a Friday evening. So I said, of course. So 3:20, 4:20, something along those lines. I was able to jump in the car because obviously I have a lot of supplies, and I did a door-to-door delivery and got home. You know, it was a 4-hour round trip. So to me, working for a commercial company, patients are always at the forefront of everything that we do, because without our patients and the care that we deliver, there wouldn't be a company. So I think, you know, we like Chris to get that point across, because we do, well, who I work for and companies that I've worked for previously, patients have always been at the forefront.
And to be fair, Michelle, the ethos I have is if I can't see the patient being put first, I won't use those companies, full stop. I don't care how good the products are. It's about the patient, not about the product. The product is secondary. So it's important that the patients are looked after. And that's the most important thing to me. The only other person I'm going to say a quick thank you on here is two people. There's Norman, which is one of our trustees. I don't know where he is on your bit of screen, but he's a very quiet gentleman that sits and doesn't say much. But he's an incredible guy, and he's one of our trustees, and we couldn't run the charity without him. And then we've also got Emma Jackson, who is a local entertainer, singer, and she's sat there. She's got a wonderful smile. She wrote a song for us and sang a song, so she's not going to do it tonight, but one night I'm going to have her on here and she'll sing a song. But, you know, we're surrounded as a charity by wonderful people, and they're just two of them, as well as everybody else that's on here. It's, you know, I couldn't do what I do without people like Emma and Norman and the rest of the trustees. So is there any other questions anybody wants to throw to the room that we can see if we've got any issues with anybody. Has anyone got any problems? Anybody got anything they want to say?
Thanks for having us.
It's always a pleasure. I can't say any different. So it's quite emotional that I'm 9 years down the line and here I am talking to the world about head and neck cancer. 9 years ago, I was the perfect patient, weren't I?
Absolutely.
So, when I got diagnosed, I just thought I was going to die, and it was just a case of roll up and give up. So to be here 9 years later and be talking to a room full of people from around the world is just, it's inspirational, and it's got to be inspirational for our health professionals as well. Because without those guys, they do a great job with coronavirus, but that's, hopefully this is a one-off. These guys do it week in, week out. And they don't always get it right, but I would say 99.9% of the time they do. I always remember going into being weighed, and there was a lady weighing me that knew me personally. I didn't have to say even who I was. And she just weighed me every week. You become a family, and it's, I think we all experience that with patients. You do become a family, and they don't get it right all the time, but they're human beings, for God's sake. And George has got a young lady behind him as well now, so nice to see you're not on your own, George. So has anybody got anything they want to throw to the room instead of me gabbering on all the time?
I'll say one thing.
Go.
I hope you can all see my film that I produced and directed. It's called Can You Hear My Voice? It's because of COVID, where the release plans are delayed, but it's about the Shouted Cancer Choir in London. And I spent 2.5 years raising money and making a film, and it's done. And we had a premiere in London on February 2nd, and then everything got shut down. So maybe by the end of the year, at least the beginning of next year, we'll be releasing it in various methods along with ATOS. ATOS was the primary funder of the film. One of 5 funders.
Perfect. David, go unmute, David.
Hello.
Yes.
Hiya. Can you hear me now, Chris?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Did you love me?
I can hear you, David.
Hello.
Mute. I'll do it. There you go.
I'm David.
Talk now, David.
I feel I was able to see your film with ATOS before it happened, and it was fantastic. I also had the opportunity to actually sing with your choir in London when I went to the conference in Brighton. I tell you what, it is fantastic.
Tremendous. Well,
thank you, David, for your compliment of the film.
Well,
I've meeting Thomas and Alan and a bunch of the people. It was great.
They're quite characters. Yep.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm going to leave you with a thought. Obviously, we have our conference every year, and this year it's supposed to be in Edinburgh. But obviously, with Scotland still on lockdown and not looking like they're going to come out of lockdown before the rest of England. I don't know, that's because they wear kilts or something. I'm not sure, but maybe because they've got kilts, they have to get warmer weather. But it doesn't look like that's going to go ahead, which is disappointing. So I've got another idea that I'm rolling about at the moment. So I'm going to throw it by you. So what I'm looking at doing is running the conference online, and it will go for 24 hours across all timelines.
That's cool.
So every time zone will have a different conference in a different time zone, all linked to the main one in the UK, and it'll all be recorded. So that's what I'm working on. So instead of being in the room, you'll actually be like we are now, but on a true conference platform. And so far, I've got about 3,000 people looking to join the conference. So I will be putting that out, I would imagine, over the next couple of weeks. So look out for it. And I may be able to announce it more at the next meeting. But again, all the speakers that were booked for this year will be electronically on, so you can still see the speakers all around the world. But the idea is it'll be across all time zones, which is a massive big project. It's never been done before. But anyone that knows me, I like to do things that's not been done before. Because if things that have been done before, it's boring. It's a lot better doing something that you're leading the way, and that's what I want to do. So for the first time ever, we hopefully will take the conference on the 6th and 7th of November live across the world on a platform very similar to this. But you'll actually go in and listen to speakers of your choice, or you'll be able to be in the main room for all the main speakers. So I will be coming back to some of you for some tips and advice about local areas and local concerns within your area to try and cover it on the conference. So that's a little bit of a flavour. Not going to happen. It'll just happen in a different format. Any thoughts on that? Apart from I'm crazy.
Good idea.
Chris, brilliant idea. You know you've got our full support as well, so we're here to assist with the organisation of that.
Perfect. Well, you'll be the timekeeper, Phil, as normal. So just have to stay
I was just thinking, does that mean I get no sleep for 24 hours?
I didn't realise you were still there, Phil. I thought you were away, otherwise I'd have said. Phil is one of our volunteers and a big asset to the conference and to the charity. But at the conference, he's our Mr. Timekeeper. God forbid you go over time with him. He's got a hook and he'll take you off the stage. So yeah, you'll be involved in that. But yeah, it's a big challenge, and we're not sure whether we'll be able to do it, but I'm sure I'll get there. It's I like a challenge sometimes, and you know, it's proved it tonight to me to be able to do it with almost 100 people. So it can be done. We just need to be a little bit more slicker, and that might mean buying new platforms. But I'll look at that over the next couple of weeks and then announce it. So yeah, that's where we're coming from. Next meeting, 10th of June, same place, same time. So again, I'll send out a link on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. But if you want to be part of it, the easiest way is just to send me an email and then I'll send you the link. So there is 2 links, as you know. One is data protection and one's for the conference. If you filled in the data protection before, don't fill it in again. It's just that we have to get everybody to fill that in, unfortunately, with data protection here in the UK. And I think it's the same all around the world. But yeah, if anyone else got anything to say, it's over to you. Otherwise, we'll all see you next month. So thank you very much, Arthur. Go back to work now. You're looking wonderful. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, everybody.
Don't forget to brush your teeth before you go to bed, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios. Adios. Where's everyone going? Hey, look at that. They're all disappearing. But I'm like the captain. I'll be the last one out.